Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm working on a Suburban. It's a 1999 four-wheel drive 1500 series Chevy. This is one badass vehicle. It has a 6-inch lift and also has 35-inch tires, giving it this massive height, which I'm going to be doing some new shocks on here, a brand new exhaust system. I'm going to be taking care of all of the rust on the right side, passenger side, as the driver's side is fine. So I'm going to walk you through this right now. But right now we're just going to take a little look over the whole vehicle and just take in the gander of what this American SUV that was very desired back in the day, gave you lots of room to haul around your kids, but also gave you a nice V8 motor inside, 350 cubic inch, which is a very traditional motor for these Chevys. As you can see, we got the traditional rust on the inner rockers and the outer rockers, plus the lower quarter panel. We're going to get into this and cut in and see what we're going to be working on, so stay tuned. Alright, so as you can see, this is what the original underneath looked like before I started to do any sort of descaling, removing the exhaust system, removing those old shocks that don't absorb any sort of impact, and we're going to make sure that we get this all cleaned up. Now this vehicle does not scream, oh, it was neglected or anything else like that. It was just a simply stored outside vehicle, and what everything does is salt, water, all that buildup from sitting outside sits on the frame and starts to cause some heavy pitting, scaling. So we're going to remove all of that, get it all cleaned up, and then I got to do some patches on the other side. As you can see, the inner wheel well area is going to need to be patched up, remove all of that rust first, and then we're going to be making some panels from scratch for that section. We do have some replacement panels for the lower outer quarter panel and the lower outer rocker, but I will be making any sort of patches that I need along the way. Right now I'm removing the standard OEM running boards. He's going to be installing new ones eventually down the line. Now there's a few bolts that you have to go along the way to loosen. You can get your impactor in there, but there's just not that much clearance, so I'm going old school with a wrench. Now if you're lucky, these bolts won't be rusted solid. Right now these aren't rusted solid, so I'm very lucky. You do not want to strip them out because it's going to be a pain in the ass to remove these without cutting those original brackets if those bolts snap. Now I do have this in fast forward, as this is something that you don't really need to see me doing in standard speed. At this time, I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe. Every like and subscription helps build my channel and allow me to put out even more videos for you. Thanks again guys, and remember to stay tuned for the next one I upload. But for now, let's get back to this 1999 Suburban I'm working on. Right now I'm trying to get the running boards off. They're hung up on those studs underneath, so we're going to pry on it with a pry bar. Right now I will be just using my hands, rocking it back and forth, seeing if we can slide it off those studs naturally without causing any other issues. Now I'm going to swap over to using my pry bar to try and get in between the bracket and that stud and try and slide it forward. Once it loosens up, as you can see there, it was caught up in the bottom of that rocker panel, let loose of those rusted shards, which we're going to be cutting away at this rocker very soon. Now the next step is going to be removing that molding on the lower quarter panel area. I got some fishing line. It's going to probably snap a couple times. If not, you can always switch over to string. But right now, I'm trying to remove it without scratching the black paint. We're going to try and remove as little paint as possible when doing this patch and get it in there and make it look factory still. Take your time moving the fishing line back and forth, as this will allow you to saw through that clear double-sided tape. Now it might not be clear on your vehicle, it might be black, but it doesn't matter. The same premise still exists for almost any sort of badge or trim that's put on with double-sided tape, is to use a line to loosen it up. You can always use heat and then use a sticker removal tool, which is like a wheel that goes on a drill. I always find this as a simpler method. It does take a little bit longer, but that's okay, and you can still reuse the original factory trim when it's over. All you have to do is put on some new double-sided tape and stick it back on there. As you can see, the string just snaps. I'm using it still up by using the shorter strand, and it broke again. So we're going to switch over to a new piece. Now I'm using a piece of string. As you can see, that's still snapped, but I got through all that tape down to the bottom, and I'm going to just try to keep sawing away until it's off. As you can see, I'm at the end here now, and I can just lift it back a bit, and you can see that gray tape, but we can still reuse that trim leader if we want to. Now we're going to get into cutting this away with the orbital saw and tracing it back to any good metal that's left. At this moment, my battery was dying, and I was being a little lazy, and I didn't want to get up and get the next battery, but as you can see here, we're trying to make a nice clean cut line and go through this and take our time. Once I got a new battery in there, I was ripping through that, and then we're going to start trimming away at that patch panel for the exterior and see what we have to do to get that to fit, and then we'll repair anything on the inside if it needs it to. Now we can see the inner structure is rusted out a little bit too. We're going to get the sandblaster in there, the wire wheel, clean it up, and get ready to patch it up. There's still an area on the side that to cut off that original quarter panel area and trim away at it. And now I'm going to start cutting away at the inner structure so that we can start bending and making a new patch for this area. I did have to make 5 patches from scratch. But right now we want to cut back until we're at some good metal, and then we're going to sandblast any creases or any pitting that may be left on that good metal on both sides. You can see what is still good and how far the rust has been creeping up, and you're going to cut off that area where the rust is at on the back side, so that way we have a nice clean surface. You can grind up on both ends, clean it up, and sandblast it, and we can patch what's needed. Now you can draw out those factory spot welds, but there was no more factory spot welds. This area has been patched in the past by the previous owner or maybe the owner before that. So I will show you what it looks like on the back side of that original lower quarter panel. And you can see it's been overlaid before, which I'm not judging, but that's what traps some of the moisture in there and causes it to rust out even faster. Right now I'm cutting out the heavily pitted area on the bottom. Now it still has some good structural steel there if we were going to just sandblast it, but just to give him even more strength, I'm going to cut out that heavily pitted area, then sandblast what's left and weld in a new patch. Now you can see that piece that you cut out to replicate it, but I'm actually going to just bend it and make it myself without saving that little small patch. Alright, as you can see here, this is what was the original quarter panel area. It looks like it's been overlaid. So we're going to get the mini sandblaster out, ready to go. Load it up with that glass media and blast any of that pitting that's left inside of that quarter panel area and start getting in some new patches. We're going to fill it up adequately, shake it so that the media can drop inside of the holder. Once you notice that there's no more draining down inside of itself, it's most likely the hopper is full. Make sure you wear your PPE when doing this. It will be launching lots of dust and media at you. I will say that this isn't the best sandblasting gun, but it does get the job done. I would recommend using a bigger setup, but for now, if you're on a budget, this is just a $20 gun, and it'll allow you to get inside that pitting area more than a wire wheel will. Now, the worst part about this media gun was the media was so thin, since it was glass beads, it was just falling out the front of it, so I had to tilt it upwards so that the media wouldn't just blast everywhere or just fall out of the nozzle. One thing you can tell is there is a difference in color in the area that has been sandblasted versus the areas that haven't. The nozzle is very small, so you're going to be using it on a very small targeted surface area. But this will allow you to do anything on this size scale very easily and very affordably. As you can see, it's starting to blast off the paint too, lightly, because it's only glass media. But it will be changing all that pitting that was like an orange brown to a gray color, knowing that it's going to be fine for you to seal it up and weld in new metal. At this point, about 3/4 done. We're removing any of the pitting, but we're going to get the rest of it off screen because this is just taking a little bit longer than expected. Now I'm going to be removing those interior trim panels where the weather stripping is so that we can start getting the rocker panel all cut out and ready to go. Now the reason I'm drilling them out is because all the bolts are stuck in there, so we're going to drill the heads off so that we can loosen the plastic up enough. And you'll see in the next video, I'll be finishing up the rust repair and then moving on to doing the exhaust and the shock. So stay tuned, and thanks again guys. Remember to like and subscribe to see more.